Welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence. Today I have an update show. Megan Farrell Nelson is back in the house. She's made a move over to Real Brokerage, one of the fastest growing brokerages in the industry. She has written a book, Women in Real Estate, Who Boss Up.
Woo.
Looking forward to talk to her about that and why everyone should get a copy of it. And she's also recently had an event. I want to hear the details of with a bunch of industry-leading ladies and a women empowerment gathered in Palm Coast. Megan, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
So excited to be here.
And I will say, we got, in that original podcast, we had some really great reels from, and I think I sent you a lot of them.
Yes.
And, I know you do a lot of personal development, and just some of the sound bites I was pulling out of those in those reels, in the titles of it. A lot of those reels had thousands of listeners. They really, really did well. And I know that one day when you launched the book and I sent out that reel on the same day, that was totally ironic. I was like, was everyone Googling you that day?
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's all the therapy.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well,
kidding, kind of.
Tell us about the event. I remember it was in the first week of March, and I remember talking to you, and you were before that. I can't think it was before the RE Bar Camp event or something, and you were really nervous. You told when I talked to you, you were writing a check that day for the venue.
Yes.
Yet you didn't have any RSVPs yet.
Nope.
Didn't know if anyone would show up. You you built it.
Yes.
And they did come.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yes. So, at RE Bar Camp, which shout out to RE Bar Camp always. Love that place and getting to connect with all the leaders in Northeast Florida there. But at RE Bar Camp, I wrote the check for the space that day. And if you've hosted an event before, or even like a birthday party for a 7-year-old, right? I feel like there's so much that goes into putting an event together. And that was a big and I had to bet on myself at that moment, right? And it was nerve-wracking for sure because the event space was not cheap. And it was the biggest event that I was hosting so far, and a lot of moving parts. And thankfully, like you said, we built it, and the women came. And I can give myself definitely absolutely a pat on the back and give myself credit for taking that first step, but it's just the community. We have a really solid community of strong women leaders here in Northeast Florida. And, I reached out to, as usual, I just called on my friends. I am a sum of the 5 women I surround myself with, and they are all very, very smart women. And I was just like, hey, I've got this idea. You want in? And as always, they all showed up and brought their A game. And we had Candace. She flew in from California teaching about Instagram. We had an agent, Mary Murphy from New Jersey, who came down and talked about leverage. And we had just a whole slew of women from all over Florida who came in and talked about different brokerage types, different teams, how they run their team. And it was just and we had Joanna Watkins, who is the chief legal counsel for Florida Realtors, come. And when we usually hear from Joanna, it's usually, contract updates, right? Like boring stuff no one wants to listen to, but we have to. And this time she came in and she just dropped some amazing, amazing knowledge into us about, getting through pressure and what that does for women, and it can turn us into diamonds, right? So just the women who came, who led and shared were incredible. And then from there, the women who attended were also just incredible women, and everyone was a giver. Everyone was contributing, everyone was sharing and hugging and talking, and that's the spirit of what I think women's events should be. So.
Well, I'm curious of the some of the feedback that you've gotten from the women, because it sounds like you built a really good card of talent to come in and speak. That obviously when you build an event like that, that's the only thing you can control. But I imagine a lot of them, you got a lot of feedback from what was going on in between. During the breaks and the conversations that were happening then.
Yeah, and that's also the magic in events, is just getting to network with other top professionals and build relationship with other women. Being a female is obviously a very unique experience in our industry, as, you know, especially a lot of the women who are attending events are around my age and my life experience, which is, you know, motherhood and wife and or spouse or, you know, those kind of things too. So getting women connected to, you know, the speakers kind of plant the seeds, right? And then when we have like coffee time or lunchtime and networking afterwards, it allows for people to take those seeds and like, you know, sow them themselves with the agents around the room.
Let me ask you, because you just said something that how you phrase, you said something, basically the challenges of women in our industry. To me, I think women dominate our industry.
Well,
from a male's perspective, women, I think the top. Now there are some men that really do well. They're kind of silent behind the scenes. They're not as, I don't want to say flashy, but, you know, like doing the social media and stuff like that, as we know the women are. But when it comes to showing, you know, what's the bottom line, showing someone a home, that this is going to be their place, that, you know, if I was to hire a real estate team, and I either could hire a male real estate team or a female real estate team, I'd hire a bunch of female real estate.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you on that for sure. But I don't mean to say that we have challenges and we are less than because of that, because I actually think it's the opposite. I think that women do have an advantage a lot of times in this industry because of our softness, right?
You're more approachable.
And you know, like, it's funny because I obviously work with my spouse, and he is a fantastic real estate agent. Like, the technical side of being a realtor, he has down. He nails it. Our P&L, he knows it to a T. I couldn't tell you what it looked like, you know, this week. And so obviously that's a super important part, but you can't get to the technical side of it without building relationships with people, without like I used to joke that Brady's the numbers guy and I'm gonna show you which room you want to raise Johnny in, right? Because I care, like, that's the stuff I care about, is like, what memories are you making? And, you know, I get excited when I see that. And I think a lot of women do, you know, have those strengths in their softness, and I also think with our softness comes our strength as well, because I'll tell you, I wouldn't really want to negotiate against me either. So, you know, I think that there is just through and I don't know, I can speak for myself. Like, I got in it at a young age, and so I was 26, straight out of kindergarten, teaching, literally like sunshine and rainbows all the time. And then when I got into real estate, I was like, oh, that's not what this is. And so I kind of had to cut my teeth on some pretty sharp rocks learning the lessons of the industry. And so I think that I know that if I didn't go through my challenges of having people not want to work with me because I was young, having people not want to work with me because of I was a woman, because of what I looked like or whatever.
You think some people actually, because you were a woman, they wanted a male?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I remember sitting in.
That would never actually cross my mind, especially in real estate. I can't think of I guess I am, you know, my wife is a very, you know, independent, as I always recommend to young guys, I say, find a woman who makes her own money, and, you know, she can run it. So you don't want one that's dependent, that, you know, is afraid to walk out the front door. You need someone that can kick you in the ass when you need a kick in the ass.
Well, I think that is absolutely the important part when you're finding a partner, is finding someone who's going to push you to be better. Absolutely. And yeah, without that, that's like not growth, right? Like, you can't grow if especially when you go home at night and everything's like, you know, oh, it's just cool, like, life's good, you know, like, how does that's not engaging and doesn't make you want to live, you know, better. But I would say, and I'm only speaking on my experience, it does not happen now. No one, I've done a really good job of branding myself, and I think that anybody who is like, would prefer to work with a man over a woman is not going to approach our team. But there's definitely times where I like some, this is one of my favorite stories, when I had a man mansplain to me how to write a purchase price. He wanted to, you know, write an offer minus, you know, a third of the AC plus this, that. And I was like, no, just give me the number. And he was like, I don't think your brain is understanding what I'm trying to do. And like, Brady was like, Mayday, Mayday, give me the phone, you know, like, oh no. And I was like, what did you say, sir? I just need you to repeat that for me. And he said it again, and Brady was like, grab the phone.
He wanted for you to explain to the seller why he was offering a certain price.
Well, he wanted to do like a math equation for the purchase price. And I was like, no, like, just take off like what you think an AC would be, and we'll just put that as the purchase price. He's like, no, but it has to be the exact. I was like, that's not going to work this way. And he was like, your little brain, girl.
My God.
And he literally said something.
Your little brain that isn't building in the fact when they take out the other AC, they got to come in and put a new slab in.
Yeah. But so I mean, like, those experiences are very far and few between, especially at this point. I would say like most of the time was probably because I was a young girl.
That would make more sense.
Yeah, a young girl and like new in the industry and new in the area. But I think that, you know, like, I obviously am all about women empowerment. And I think that the struggles that we have as women and our ability to have humility and share about them is really where our power comes from.
Give us some substance, though, for someone who wasn't there.
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe there's someone who's listening, another female that may be listening to this, go, oh, Jesus, and please tell me when your next event is.
Yeah.
Because they are interested. But you know, the sidebar conversations that were going on during breaks, during lunch, or whatever you were doing, that was, I'm sure a lot of people got just as much out of that as they did out of the actual instruction. Tell us some of the feedback or some of the conversations that you possibly engaged in or others engaged in and told you about at the event.
I think what the most powerful takeaways for me to observe, and like my like moments, that the reason I do these events, the reason I put, like, I don't make money off of them, right? I'm not doing it to get rich. I do it because I love the community and I love to watch people grow. I think the aha moments are when they see these people on stage, like, you know, Tiffany Pantozzi spoke, and she's in Orlando. She's got a great following down there and a fantastic business. And Erica Wolf, she's in Jupiter, Florida. When they share their stories about their businesses, so you get to hear they're credible people, right? And then when they share their personal struggles that they go through, and women can sit in the audience and be like, oh, wow,
she's real.
Yeah, her life isn't perfect like it looks like online, or oh, you know, her business is great and she has these things that actually happen to real people too. And it kind of, like, for me, that's where like people can get that moment where they're like, I can do this too. And I think once you have that switch flip of like, wait, if they can do it, so can I, or why not me? I think that's the power. And that's the power of in-person events is getting to see your favorite people that you know, get to follow online, or you get to watch their businesses grow, getting to like see how, and not just that, like see how they got from A to B, you know, and then from B to C, and then from C to D, versus just watching, you know, their story at, you know, the 10th chapter, right? So like you get to kind of see the growth of it.
You start to relate to it.
Exactly.
They struggled like I did, or where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and I think that's especially like it can be tough when you get into an industry new, and especially real estate. You know, it's all about branding. It's all about how long have you been doing this and how credible are you? Show me all of your success. And when you can like start to see how to get there, and then start to take those steps to follow the people, and then also building relationships and like walking up to Tiffany and saying, wow, Tiffany, you really inspired me. And then now you and Tiffany have a relationship, and now you guys are in each other's DMs, and now you can actually ask for tangible advice when things pop up and grow.
When you shoot them an email or shoot them a text, they're more likely to respond to you now before they know who you were.
Absolutely. And I mean, everybody knows that the secret to being successful in the real estate industry is relationships. And so I don't think that you just need to be in your community building relationships. I think that it is absolutely vital that you are building relationships around your state, around the country, especially if you are an agent in Northeast Florida or in Florida. You need to be going to conferences outside of Florida. That's how I built my business, was getting involved with the local association, going to the NAR conferences, and we have coach as well, and going to our coaching events and just building relationships there. There's over 2,500 people a day moving to Florida. Like, that's nutty, right? And so chances are, if you go out there and you start building,
you get a referral, get several referrals a year. That changes. Get 3 or 4 deals. That's 3 or 4 deals that didn't, somebody else would have gotten.
Well, and it's and a couple. I don't know how this was probably Brady's second year joining me in the business when he started doing my P&L and was like, "Hey, you spend a lot of money at conferences. I'm going to give you a $20,000 budget for conferences." And I was spending more than that, and I was like, "The heck you are!" And that year, I was like, "Watch what my conferences do for our business." And in the first 2 months, by January, we had already closed $12,000 and this was 4 or 5 years ago. So this is a different market when prices are a little lower. Right. We had already had like $12,000 commission, like net, not gross, like that net.
From a referral
from referrals from agents across the country that I had met at conferences. And so I was like, how about that budget? Can we up it, And so he started to see the power in building those relationships. And that is right now, that's probably, I would say maybe 50% of our business is agent to agent referral.
Coming from out of state.
Out of state or other areas in Florida.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, we're super heavy on agent referral.
Patty Ketchum, I was, had her on actually the fall of 21 when I went back into her video and started cutting some reels out.
Yeah.
And she actually mentions in there, one of the things she regrets was not getting involved with her board as early. Of course, now she's super involved in real estate. But the relationships, and she says, because the bottom line really, it's not the buyers and sellers that will make or break your business, it's the other agents. Now, she was looking at a microcosm of Tallahassee in that thought, but now that you say that, it resonates that, it's national to go out and meet some of these people that are, because they're leaders from their area. And people ask them for advice. Hey, do you know any, because they're going to events. Their friends and family know they're going to these events. Oh, have you ever met someone from Florida? Boom, and then now you're in the game, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is really it. I mean, when you go to if you're going to go to events, then my 100% advice would be to, every session you go to, take one takeaway. One. Don't try to take 100 notes because you're not going to go home and you're not going to read through it again. I've been there, done that. Go for one takeaway from every session you go into. And at least make 5 relationships every single day where you can write them a handwritten note. And that is the magic. You write someone a handwritten note after a conference, I turn into like a puddle of mush, right? Like if someone gives me a handwritten note, I am just tickled. It sits on my desk probably until the next conference when I get more handwritten notes, and I keep all that stuff because that's important to me. And, that really becomes magical because like you said, the people who are investing in themselves to attend these events, because it's expensive, right? Flights, hotel, conferences, and conferences these days are like $500-600 sometimes. You're looking at $1,500 plus time away from your family and your business.
Right.
So it is an investment for sure. So when you're going to these events, you don't want to just be in the lobby bar, right? Like partying with everybody, LobbyCon as they call it. You want to make sure that you go to LobbyCon, have a good time, but make sure you're building relationships and that you can like take those relationships back with you and, make the investment worthwhile, not just in what you're learning, but also the relationships you're building.
All right, let's circle back to your event, though.
Yes.
So how did you structure? Was this just like a one-day conference?
Yeah.
Or how was it? How would you set it up?
Yeah, so this one, it was Empowered Real Estate Mastermind. I am absolutely planning to do it again. And I want to kind of keep it all over Northeast Florida. And how we did it, we had speakers come in. They had either, 45 minutes to an hour to speak about their topic. Didn't really corral them much, but that. And
just make sure they had different stuff. So we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I know how to like I kind of come in with like, where do I want covered? And then I like see who is good at what, or I see my friends and their strength and I'm like, ooh, she'd be good for this.
And all these speakers were volunteers.
All of them were volunteers.
They just wanted to be part of it.
Yep. And so everyone just comes and joins in the fun. And
I'm saying for the structure of the standpoint, because like you said, it's the LobbyCon. That's where you're meeting these people. Like everyone's sitting there listening to somebody, but you're not exchanging business cards and having that chat. Did you create certain situations to create that?
Yep. Yeah. So we had a little like breakfast coffee area beforehand, and outside it was a nice it's on the water, so like there was a nice area for people to walk around and kind of get chit-chatty before they came in. We had our tables set up where people they were circle tables. I love circle tables because it really allows for conversations to happen. And then of course we have lunch. We don't like try to squish lunch. We try to give as much time so people can chat and really engage in those conversations. And, you know, Stevie Hahn came and she did some pictures for people too. So I try to incorporate a little bit of, you know, not just sitting for the whole time, and just allowing people to really get to connect with each other afterwards. And
so did it go on like 9 to 5 type of thing?
Yeah, it was 10 to 4, I think. 10 was to 4. That. Yeah.
So what was your takeaway afterwards? Now that you've done one, what are some things that you wouldn't do and some things you'd like to do next time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, next time I am catering lunch. That is it.
How did you do it this time?
I have an amazing event planner, and she handled lunch. But I just think with the volume of people we had, it's time to take it to the next level, which is great, right? Like I love feedback that is, you know, and I knew that like once we started, I was like, oh wow, this is a lot of people, and it doesn't seem it's like application and like, you know, visualizing it are two different things. Yes. So definitely catering lunch. I think I'd try to do 10 to 3, to be honest with you, with like a 3 to 4 kind of like happy hour-ish thing afterwards with mocktails. And just have a set time at the end where we can all connect and really like share our takeaways and things like that. When I did the Lift Retreat, which was a 2-day event, we spent probably an hour and a half at the end, and we ran over and no one left except for like maybe like a mom or two that like had to pick up their child. Right. But we all like sat there and we were crying and laughing and hugging, and that is the real magic. So I think, you know, that is something I would definitely allow for at the end, is some extra space for people to really dive in on those connections. And I think beforehand, I need to do a Facebook group for my events, and just have the community where women can talk about what they want to hear and what they're excited about, and beforehand. So the community building's happening before you even walk in the room. So I think cater lunch, have extra time at the end, specifically for continuing to build those relationships, and also having time at the end to like pass the mic around and hear different takeaways. I think it's really impactful when, you know, I can sit and listen to a speaker, and then, you know, Tracy, you share about what you took away from them, and I'm like, oh wow, I heard that differently. Let me kind of reframe my thoughts on it. Or you were
focused on what you heard and didn't hear what the other person heard.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, that's growth, right? Is being able to like communicate with others and hear other people's perspectives, and like reflecting on it with your own perspective, and just, you know, shaping your thoughts and kind of shifting around.
All right. So this is why, I mean, obviously I love women. We had Heather Monahan on. She's a big women empowerment person before. And I wish men, well, there are some guys that have created some groups, and I've seen advertisements. They want you to pay big money to go to their thing and empower. But I don't think men have, I don't know how to describe it, that kumbaya type of thing where you guys are bonding in there. Yeah. And talk about what it means for you and what it means for the other women. So, you know, question I asked you before the show, because it was a question that came up when I had Heather Monahan come on, is there are some women out there that say they support, but they don't, and what it actually means, because maybe they don't understand. Maybe because maybe they were growing up, I don't know, maybe they were growing up in a more, authority, or the male aspect of things, you know, they're trying to be like a man running a corporation versus the female perspective of running a corporation, and they don't understand how important it is for women to, you know, have these events and share this thing,
come together,
and because obviously in the end, the bottom line is you walk out of there, you feel good, and you feel better because you are better.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Because of these stories you share. Express to those who may not, maybe it's male or these females, as we talked about, some of them fake. They say they were for women empowerment because they're a woman, then why wouldn't they, right?
Yeah.
But they're not, but really the next day they're out there, shooting down a woman because maybe they feel as she's a competitor or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think there's kind of two pieces to that. And I'm going to address the first one, which I think, you said like a female, and what I took from it is like they have to be a little harder, right? And like they have to be a little tougher.
They think they do.
Yeah, they think, yeah. Well, and I would say that there's, like there's two different energies that all people have, and feminine and masculine. And sometimes I get caught up in my masculine sometimes and like want to take over the world. And even when Brady came into my business, it wasn't until 3 years ago where I really could step back and let him lead. And it wasn't because, like, looking back on that, I don't think it's like these women who are in that energy or even put women down, whether intentionally or unintentionally. I don't think that people are acting in I like to believe that they're not out there deliberately hurting other people. I think it's all about like protecting themselves and doing what they think they have to do to survive. And I think that, for me, it's come with life experience that I've been able to soften. It's come with experience in the industry. It's come with building my confidence in myself. Because I think sometimes that's a shell, right? Like we put on this like hard exterior, nothing can hurt me. I am tough. I am superwoman. Like you will not break me. And then at night you go home and you're like not that person, right? And so I think it's all for protection, and it's all for I think that people act in such a way because they think they have to, with like bringing that full force. Some people are that energy, and that is them authentically, and that's who they are, and that they don't apologize for it. And I think, you know what, as long as you're not tearing people down with you, cool, run your life, be you, do how you have to do. And we might not jive, and that's cool too. I don't have to jive with everyone. I think as for women who are, as we kind of chatted about earlier, I say like talking out of both sides of their mouth, right? I will say that I think all of us are guilty of it. I think as humans, it can be human nature, I got a text this morning and I was telling Taylor, and it was not very kind. And the old Megan would have replied back just as unkind. And I would have been, I don't even remember the words, but I would have not been that. And my response was, listen, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about it, but what I'm not going to do is listen to you insult me. And that wasn't nasty. That was just me saying, hey, we can talk about this, but you're not going to beat me up over this. And I think the person sending that text, I don't think she was trying to tear me down. I didn't see that. When I read that text, I was like, wow, I hurt her somehow, and she feels like she needs to talk to me in this way.
How much of a relationship do you have with the person on the other end of that text?
Pretty decent one, yeah.
Because I think a lot of what we're talking about is, whether it's corporate America, you go on with this, someone's trying to move their way up the ladder in corporate America, for example. I think everyone can, this stereotypical story here that, you put on this face, or a woman feels she's got to, act like the men's, sort of, I guess, if you want to call, they got to be tough, right? Because they don't want to show that they have feelings or emotional, because that's what the typical, they're going to say, oh, she's too emotional, she's going to cry, whatever, type of thing. I mean, I'm a crier. I mean,
I laugh when they say that, like, women are more emotional, and every time I've seen a man respond to or even like a debate with two men debating back and forth, I'm like, y'all are way more emotional than we would be. Like, chill out.
Yeah, is really knowing that person. You always, this person, and I think a lot of times people, get emotional and something, we come off when we say something, right? But if you know that person, if you've had a long friendship with that person, you know that you sit back and go, okay, because you had a second with a text message. One thing is someone's in front of you, your immediate thing is like flight or flight, right?
Yeah.
So you immediately respond and fight back. But over the text message, you're like reading that and going, okay, I know Sally. She's, all right, hold on a second. She's blowing off steam, you could calm your ass down. I'll talk to you about it, but don't insult me. I mean, that's basically what you said.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's a skill. That
Yeah.
is not a skill that I've had, even in text, even.
What's maturity?
Yes,
Yeah.
life maturity and business maturity. And I think that, people when hurt people, right? So, like, if you're not going to see some person who's living their best life out there shitting on other people, right? Like, having a great business that's true to themselves, that are living to their truth and authenticity, you're not going to find them out there putting other people down. You're not. It doesn't happen. It's when something goes sideways that if you don't address what's going sideways, it's going to come out somewhere, right? And so I think when we have women who put other women down, because it's very common, I think that there's a lot of different reasons for that. I think it comes from lack of maybe personal confidence, can come from jealousy. It can come from thinking that they need to be something that they don't have to be.
Do you think we before they do that, because I mean, we all have emotions, right? They go, well, now whether we act on them is something different. Where's this going to get me?
No, I don't think anybody thinks before they say things that are inappropriate. I think that it is just that knee-jerk reaction, and that's something that being in recovery has really helped me with, is like, pause. Just take a pause and take a breath. And even in person now, my response, if that was in person, my response would have been like, oh, wow. Like, I feel like we are not, you might be misunderstanding where I was coming from with something, but let's take a minute. And I would, even if I can't address something at a time, I will say to somebody's face, listen, even Brady and I, if we're in a moment, I'll say, I'm going to walk away right now. And we always say, I love you. Like, it's always like a compliment. Like, I am going to walk away. I value this relationship. And even with customers, right? When customers are getting worked up, you could do the same thing there. I really, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can see you're getting, frustrated. And I understand. I understand completely where you're coming from. Why don't we take a break from this conversation and let me get myself composed? And we can revisit it here in the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes if you have time, or we can do it in a couple hours. Right. Just being able to de-escalate, because, 99% of the time, I guess I shouldn't say that, but like a lot of times things are either untrue or we've made a story up in our head about what we think the other person is saying or doing. Motives, or that things are malicious when they're really not, like nobody thinks about you more than you do. Right. Like the person that sent me that text today, they weren't thinking about me. They were thinking about how they felt and how it made them feel. And that's why the lash out came, was because about how their feelings were. Right. And, like I could have taken the stuff personally because like, are there some, and also I think when you're in these situations, acknowledging that like there can be partial truths, like when they say like there's three sides of a story, yours, mine, and the truth, like, because, and all of them are accurate, right? Because it's your experience, it's my experience, and then the objective experience, right? And so I think just, the real, to get back to like the women part of it, I think that, if you are a female and you have somebody who is consistently nasty to you, because trust me, I have faced a lot of it as somebody who is consistently trying to innovate, as somebody who's testing out brands that aren't in our market, who's going out and going to conferences, who's hosting events. I had people tell me that $99 was too expensive for no one's going to go to that $99. I'm like, y'all make 10 grand on a home sale. Yeah. If you come to an event and you don't learn one skill that's going to help you sell another house, that's on you, not on me. And
$100, that's you and your husband going out to dinner.
Right? No, like half dinner. But
that's without drinks.
But I think that, like if you're somebody who is facing criticism and it seems harsh, I think like, or you see somebody who is out there talking women empowerment and you see them having like these talking on the other side of their mouth, or putting you down, I think you're going to have to see what you want with that relationship. But I think it's absolutely appropriate to approach from a neutral standpoint and just say, hey, like, do you want to go get coffee? And if they say no, that's their thing, right? Like, you can't change somebody, but just say like, I would really love to get to know you. And I don't think you have to address the, I heard you said this about me, because I've also approached it that way, and it doesn't work.
That's the Housewives of Orange County.
Yeah, Real Housewives. Real Housewives of Palm Coast, Florida. Here. But yeah, I think that like, you know, just getting to establishing from, let's say you hear somebody says something about you, establish what, like, one, does it affect you? Two, why does it affect you? What piece of it? Are there truths to it? Can you learn from this thing that's being said about you? Right? Like, there's lots of times that I come across too harsh. I used to be the worst deliverer. I'm still not great at delivery, but it's how you say it is the most important thing,
that's
right?
What my wife says anyway.
Yeah. But, you know, like, figuring out, like, taking a minute to look at the comment objectively.
But the bottom line here is building that relationship.
Yeah.
Don't assume someone has evil intentions.
Correct.
Unless there's some sort of history of that.
Yeah.
But if you don't know somebody long enough to really form these things, or like you're saying, we're going back to the audience, if you're following, going back to the original question, which was these women who you know, talk out of both sides of their mouth. They say they're for women empowerment, but yet they're over here stabbing women, you know, to what they think is going to make them gain some gain they're going to get out of it, I guess, is why you do it, right?
Yeah,
you know,
but I honestly would only address something if you value the relationship and care to build, like, on that relationship. Like, I know, you know, if I heard one of my good friends said something, I would be like, hey, what's up with that? Let's talk about it. Maybe you're not wrong. Maybe I did act out, because I'm a human too, and I can be a jerk, right? I can. Guilty. And I think if you can't acknowledge that you're a human and you make mistakes and learn from them, then, like, what's the point, right? But I think that also you don't have to give credit to everything that's said about you.
Well, I heard this we brought this up, the thought came because I don't know where I was flipping around different things. It might have been a Instagram reel or a reel somewhere this morning was talking about if people are basically talking stuff about you, it's because you're doing something.
You're doing something
You're
right.
doing something. If no one's talking about you, that means because you probably aren't doing anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You will strike a chord with people, especially you are making a move, whether you know, your real estate business going, or you focus on social media and you start getting your game up, or you start a podcast and you consistently do it. There's going to be people out there.
Always.
Obviously, the greatest compliment is when people copy you, but there's also people who are going to say, you know, oh, you know, he's going to fail, or, you know, or she's going to fail. They're not going to do it, and it's because they themselves in their own personal things. And some of those things is, you know, it's their own personal thing. It's not. They're just trying to appease themselves, and you just need to walk away from that.
Absolutely, yeah. Anytime that it's just a negative, you know, like a comment that can be, you can interchange anybody's name into it. You know, like, oh, they suck. Like, what does that even mean, right? Like, okay, go ahead, say that all you want. Or, you know, everything doesn't deserve your attention. And once I got to that point, I don't have full peace, but I have much more peace than I did before, when everything everybody said, I was like, oh no, you know, worried about it.
It goes back to, you mentioned it earlier, surrounding yourself by 5 people, but also putting those positive people in your life that are your cheerleaders, that, you know, want to see your success, you want to see their success, and just wipe clean slate of the negativity of people. You just got to move on from that.
That is like the key to my, like, one of the 5 things of my life that I focus on is, like, putting people around me that if I call or in them and I'm crying, they'll walk out of the room they're in and they will be there for me. And even if they're like, I have to call you back, like, they still call me back, and they, you know, build me up and remind me who I am, because you need the people to remind you of who you really are, because the noise is loud, man. It's so loud, like you said.
Especially the more successful you become.
Totally.
It becomes louder and louder, yeah.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, that especially in the real estate industry, there's like 25,000 ways to run a business in real estate, probably more, right? Like, everybody's business, I've never seen 2 businesses that look exactly the same.
I totally agree.
And so you might have, you know, Susie Cold Caller, who's like, I can't believe they post on Facebook. Like that, people used to say that all the time to me. She posts her listings on Facebook. Oh my gosh, you know? And like, I never once, because I knew how much I was making off of it. I was like, okay, talk your shit, Karen, you know?
Because that didn't cost me anything.
Yeah. and now I have a fantastic brand because of it. And I'm grateful for that. And, but like, you gotta just remember who you are and surround yourself with people who know who you are, so that when the noise does get loud, because it does, and it hurts you, because we're people. You got the people next to you to say, you know what, that's not true. That's not who you are, and you're doing what's best for you. And not to listen to, like, I don't cold call. I'm not going to talk about someone negatively who does, because if they're finding success that way,
they're a phenom.
Great.
God bless them.
Yeah, it ain't me.
Yeah.
So,
all right, let's change over to the book.
Okay.
Tell us what's going on in women in real estate. Who boss up?
Yeah. So
what's the background on it? I know you got several other women contributed in here.
Yeah. So I had this opportunity. It popped up last year to be a contributor of this book, and there are some just phenomenal, like Veronica Figueroa, Kathy Helbing, Jamie Tulak, Nikki Klein, like just some powerhouse women from all over the country who were involved. And first thing I saw was who was involved, and I said, I don't care what it costs, where I have to go, what I have to do, I'm in.
Now, are these, because I don't know all these women, they in real estate or just all types of business?
Yep, this is a all women in real estate book, all industry leaders. So Veronica runs the #1 team at eXp Realty 2 years in a row. She's just fantastic, like 2,000 deals a year, really just great person. And like, just that's all of I can go through the list and tell you all of them. Kathy runs a real estate and mortgage business. Rebecca and Josh, Rebecca's an author. You know, like there's just so many. They're doing just bigger things than just selling, 20 houses a year. So
if I'm picking up this book, what are each of them contribute something a little different? Tell something. They weren't like told like, hey, give me your bio. They actually could put something of substance.
Yeah.
In
So the Women Who Boss Up series is all about just women who have overcome, adversity and difficulties, and they're sharing about it. So everybody goes through all of their own personal life experience, and like some have health things they've overcome, some have family thing, death, all of that kind of stuff, and everyone just shares a little bit of their adversity and what they, because you don't get success doesn't go like this, right? It's and sometimes it's like way down here, and you even feel lower than when you started, and you got to build back up. And so kind of like what we were talking about with those speakers, it's opportunity to see women who are at a high level, right? Like #1 team in the world at a brokerage, that's incredible. But guess what? She's got problems too. And she's had to overcome things to get there. So this season that you're in, girl who's, in her 20s, 30s, 40s reading this, you can get through it and you can still get there. So it's a book about inspiration. It's all about, making a difference in the world and just, like I said, like real estate's a hard industry. Being a female has its own challenges, and being a female in real estate can really get tough sometimes. So it's just continuing, like I said, like when the noise gets loud, you got to have stuff like this and people like this and stories like this to remind you, like, no, I'm going to get back up and I'm going to keep going. And
all right, so your chapter in there is "Don't Quit Before the Magic Happens."
It is.
Give us a little bit of taste of what that chapter's about.
Yeah. So, that she asked me like what my nugget would be of like if I could tell an agent, like this was like I had months to think about this. Like if I could tell an agent one thing, like what would I tell them? And it would be don't quit before the magic happens. And I think that when I was getting started, I really like every time I wanted to quit, when I just pushed a little further, I'd get that next sale, or I'd get the next. And as you grow in business, it's bigger and bigger achievements, right? So like I'd get the next, I'd get these next agents come over, and I'd get the next whatever. And so it's just remembering that like if you do the work, you're gonna get there. And that obviously that is in the real estate business. But where it ties into my personal story is that, a couple years ago, this is the first time I'm sharing it on a podcast.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll go viral.
I know, right? So, a couple years ago, I thought I had been president of my board. I was citizen of the year for the city of Palm Coast. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds cool, right? And like, I just had all of these. I was chair for Florida Realtors Young Professionals Network, chairs at NAR. Just our business was fantastic, thriving. I worked with my husband. I had this beautiful little boy. Like, I thought life was I was going places, right? Yeah. But I couldn't connect with it. Like, I couldn't, when I got Citizen of the Year, I remember I didn't even post about it on Facebook. And that was, like, really telling for me because I was living my life through Facebook at that time. And soon after this situation, I ended up going to a real estate event. And at that event, I was in the wrong room with the wrong people. And I ended up being drugged and sexually assaulted. And that experience has changed every single aspect of my life today. Like, the Megan before is not, she doesn't even exist anymore. And it wasn't through, like, I can talk about it now, but if, 2.5, 3 years ago when this was going on, like, I wouldn't have been able to say my name because I was so broken. And the only way that I was able to get through it was by putting myself around people who were there to pull me up when I was down. And, speaking of women struggles, people didn't believe me. The men that were involved were top producers. They were the ones that you put on stage. And it was a very uphill battle for me from the start, where people said that I was making it up because I wanted money or clout or whatever noise they were saying. And that was hard because in a moment where I felt the most vulnerable in my life, I felt like no one was listening. And so I did have people around me, but I also had to go into myself. I had to get right with Megan because I was shattered. Like, my world was black. I was shattered. I actually planned my suicide. And it was a really tough place to be in. And when my suicide, it came so fast. That's why I have a very different understanding for mental health now, because it was a regular day. I took my car to get an oil change, and when I went back to pick it up, they started doing other work on it. Like, the brakes had to get fixed or something. That when you go to the oil change, they're like, 17 other things. Yeah. And they had just started doing the work. And so this changed your plan. So that's when that happened is what triggered me to go, I'm going to go up and I'm going to jump off that bridge. And am I going to jump in front of a Mack truck or a car? Am I going to be one of the people who regrets it if I don't die? And it was like this. Like, it happened so fast. I was not in control of my thoughts. And I looked at my husband and I was like, I need help. Like, I can't stay here. I need to figure out a way to move through this. Because I was, for the several months prior, I was trying to exist in this world and trying to go to work and trying to, like, just act like it didn't happen, work through it and push harder and all of that. And I ended up breaking. And I did go to a mental health trauma facility where I spent time learning about me and learning about who I am and breaking down, like, how did I get in that room, right? Like, how did I get there? Because guess what? No one picked, like, although this is not my fault. I do not think that I deserve this or it's my fault by any means, but I do have to take ownership of my piece of it. And why was I in that room? Why was I around those people? Oh, can I look back at red flags that I saw for a year or two prior?
Did you start reading Gift of Fear?
So I have it. I did. Okay. I have it.
These are going to talk about those red flags.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? Like, and it wasn't until I could take ownership of my piece in that, and I could forgive myself for it, that I could start to even begin to move forward and begin to have light in my life again. Like, I remember I ran a lot during that time, and I was going for a run, and I remember one day going for a run, and I smelled the flowers. And I know that sounds so weird, but
No, it doesn't.
I just smelled the flowers.
Not to me.
Yeah, and I was like, I've been running the same path for weeks, and I've not smelled the flowers.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna tell me it triggered a memory.
No, like it like I was like bringing myself back to life.
Okay.
And you know, like that's my experience. Like, you know, that hardship, and it's traumatic. And you know, April's actually Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and you know, I think that we have a lot of work to do as a society on, you know, awareness and how we treat survivors and how we treat people who come forward, because it's like 2% of people are falsely accusing, you know, and that's the first assumption. Or we go after the character of the woman, or what she was wearing, or if they were drinking, or any other outside circumstance other than the fact that the man took it too far, or woman took it too far. Sorry.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting when you were talking a couple of weeks ago when we set this up that men are also assaulted a lot of times at these conventions and things.
Yeah, so I've been sharing my story in person at events when I speak for about a year now, and every time I have a minimum of 5 people that come up to me afterwards. Sometimes more DMs come in as well, and I've had on multiple occasions, I've had at least one male come up to me and share their experience with me, and you know, like they're even saying like I was conditioned to think like this was cool. You know, like when I like told my friends, they were like, "Oh, don't be a little bitch about it, man. Like you got laid." And it was it's so our society in general and our thoughts around sex and the other gender and all of that is just very, I think we've got, like I said, we've got some work to do with it, but it's just awareness is the first step, and understanding is the first step, and understanding what true consent is, and like what even, you know, is consent. And no, it's not carrying someone back from LobbyCon to your room, right? And like understanding that no means no, and like coercion's not consent. If you've asked someone 4 times and they're finally like, ugh, okay, like that's not consent either. And so I just think that there is a lot of work to be done. I think. Well,
I don't know. I mean, if they walk up there without being drugged, I don't know.
Well, walking up without
the drug part really sets me off. That's what I don't understand. If you have to do that to me, you know, it's like you said, the men would. You know, like said, oh, well, hey, you got laid, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because that's the masculinity thing you conquered, right? Hey, you know, hey, I slept with her.
That just sounds gross.
The fact that, hey, well, I know, but that, I mean, if you're in a locker room, you know, that's the talk that goes on. You know, they had the whole thing about Trump, and it's like that's what happens in a locker room, guys. I hate to tell you, but that's what.
But that's not acceptable.
No,
not acceptable.
But we're talking,
and we're not giving passes for that anymore.
We're not giving passes to that. But what I say, but the fact to me, it was like the other was, so you had to like give her a drug to get, and then to me, it's like, dude, what's that? You know, that's my mindset. To them, it's a game. These guys that do that.
Well, I mean, predators are predators, right?
Predators,
like,
yes.
and you, whether it's assault or murder or stealing or whatever, or even just manipulation in any situation, or like it doesn't have to be as extreme as mine was. Like there are people who take advantage of people at like different levels, and yeah, I think that, you know, I can only really speak on my experience and the conversations that I've had with people, but like locker room talk is bullshit. That's not real. That's not real, period. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, if you are in a locker room and you hear people talking like that and you are a man, you need to stand up and be a man and tell them to shut up, period. End of story. Not acceptable. And I am very firm on that because of my life experience and because of being in the...
Well, because there's someone in that room that actually,
but it's not locker room talk, though. It's not.
Well,
like,
no, but there's certain conversations that you can have, and I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. That's not what we're talking about here. But there's someone in that room that's being influenced by that conversation.
Correct.
More so than the others. The others are laughing off and they walk off and they don't think.
But it's not funny.
But there's someone in there that actually acts on it, and that's where you have to watch what you're saying and doing, because that other person, that predator, is now acting on it.
Well, but I also think that there's so many levels where it's not always like the people who are strategically finding victims and doing that, right? Like, these things happen at much lower levels. These things happen when, like, with someone who's never had an experience like that before, and they, like, consent is no, and consent is consent. And if you're shit-faced drunk, that's not consent. And I don't want to go into that because that's a whole nother thing. But, I just think that like that type of talking, this is why we have women who can't stand up for women, right? Because we have men who don't stand up for women. And so when you are having conversations that you would not have in front of your wife, your mother, like check yourself, right? Tell me I'm wrong.
You're right.
Tell me I'm wrong. No, like if you're having a conversation about a female that you would not have in front of your mother or your wife, you don't need to be having it about another woman. Unless you're saying like she looks nice, but I'm talking like right, I'm like, give us that all right, your sister, your best friend, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But even like you gotta watch because like like it's just if you're, like and this is why we are starting with awareness around these conversations.
This is really good because you brought something. You make my thought is we don't think about it when we're in there and we're we'll just say that locker room and a bunch of guys just talking. Talking stuff, talking trash, whatever, and in there. But someone who is being influenced in the wrong. You don't know who that is. That you're right. That because of that talk, we are footloose and fancy free. We're talking a bunch of guys, and we're talking guy talk, as everyone will talk about. But we don't. There's some people in there who are being influenced in the wrong direction. There's some guys who would never act on it.
But so are the people. But you're influenced by the conversation.
Yes.
And so your behavior, whether this is kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning, where like society-wise, like your behavior is going to be dictated by the people you're around and the conversations that you have, and like you're always influenced, right? Like it's just like affirmations. You're always affirming something to yourself. If you're telling yourself you're a piece of shit in your head over and over all day, you're affirming that. Whether if you're looking in the mirror and you're telling yourself I'm great and I'm wonderful, you're affirming that. You're affirming by having conversations and being around the people that you're around. Like I will tell you that if my husband heard somebody say something that was inappropriate about another woman, that the people would know how he felt about it because of his life. I mean, that's the person I married from the beginning, but his life experience now, like he's not going to tolerate that stuff because it bleeds. Because like it's like poison, right? Like you put a little bit of poison in the water for one conversation, then you put it then he's in another spot, someone's in another spot, we're having it again, more poison in the water. Then you're out doing it again, more poison in the water. All of a sudden you're totally poison. Agree. Yeah. And then you're pouring your poisonous water into the toxicity of this culture that does happen, and why it's an uphill battle for women to come forward in the first place. Like no one's making it up. I'm telling you that right now. Like and the people that do, like that's their own shit. It is such a small percentage that don't even want to address it. But it is so hard. It is such an invasive and intimate and just absolutely destructive behavior to the victim on the other side that no one wants to talk about it in the first place. First of all, there's like over 50% of people don't even report it because they're afraid of the backlash, because they hear the locker room talk or they hear people saying shit on the sidelines where they say, oh, well, what'd she wear? Or, oh, well, was he drinking? Or, oh, well, that they're always drunk at conferences. They probably wanted it. Like, no.
Yeah, I mean.
That's poison. And you don't know who he's around and who's hearing things. And like you said, like, you're always influenced,
no, you make me think deeper into it. And because I think.
That's what I'm here to do, make you think.
They make you think, people think. The same way obviously they don't want the backlash. Totally agree with that. We know that's how we watch every episode of SVU, and that's a big part of that conversations that they're having is the backlash.
Well, and even like the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial, I'm not going to go into like who I think did what worse, right? But like, did you see anybody saying bad things about him? Not really, right? And so it's just it's not even an even playing field.
All right.
To start on.
I agree.
So
I agree.
But with that, like having a situation like this, whether it's assault, whether it's a death, whether it's miscarriage, whether it's anything that infidelity, that's gut-wrenching and heartbreaking. we still have to somehow figure out how to show up in our lives. And especially like when someone's in a leadership role or running their own business, like we don't get to take days off as agents. So like finding a way to honor your healing journey and honor yourself through it. You know, one of the big things for me was finding what are my sparks. And I think I might have talked about this last time, I'm not sure, but just finding the things that make me tick and make me happy. And so like when I sat down and was like, what really brings me joy? It was sunshine. Like I love, I'm literally a sunflower. I will like sit here if the window is open. Yeah, I'm a sunflower.
Like a cat in the.
Yeah. Another one was I thought it was the ocean, and I had somebody ask me like, "Is it really the ocean?" And I was like, "Oh, actually, no. It's water. Like I love waterfalls. I love the intercoastal. So water."
The peacefulness of it.
Yeah.
The hearing the sound or
yeah,
yeah.
And there's tons of studies now that I've seen on like why water does do that for us, and then. You know, bringing just, you know, going outside, moving my body, and meaningful relationships. And I thought it was Brady and Elijah, and it was like, is it just them? And I was, oh, no, actually, it's just meaningful relationships. So when I feel my cup getting empty now, and it could just be getting empty because I've had to tell a buyer too many times that they didn't get the house, you know, because it's getting to be competitive again, or a contract falls out and I feel like my cup's getting empty. I know I can say, you know what, let me take 15 minutes right now to go out and sit in that sunshine. Or, you know, after work today, I'm going to grab Elijah and I'm going to go to the beach because I want to be by the ocean. And so it's being able to acknowledge what are those things, those sparks that get me through, and how can I implement them into my daily life so that I'm not getting to that point of complete depletion anymore. And also like building myself back up higher so that on the hard days, those hits aren't as hard. So, yeah.
Deep thoughts. So
deep thoughts.
Yeah.
Deep thoughts on the real estate podcast today.
Yeah. We're right at an hour right now. And we want to talk about, because I don't know anything about Real.
Okay.
I know a couple of you. I had Loyota Velasquez on. Because she's has a huge YouTube channel, and I wanted to talk to her. I don't know if you watched any of that. You didn't,
I like her a lot. She does a lot of great content for new agents, especially.
Yeah,
I think she does a good job.
So she's got a huge Instagram and a huge YouTube channel following there. So I had her on there talking, but I didn't talk to her about Real. I wanted to talk to you about it and what is it about Real? They're obviously, I even told my wife, I said, who, what?
Yeah.
She's like, that's the MLS thing. I said, no, there's actually a Real brokerage.
Yeah.
So tell how did this come across in front of you, and what attracted you there?
Yeah. So, there were just some things that, as things pop up and you're just not feeling in alignment with our previous brokerage, and I had just a couple of friends switch to it, right? And they made their announcements on Facebook, and I knew it was
locally, or just friends that you had kind of
one in Florida, couple out of state, and just I had it was on my radar. I am very much, I love cloud-based brokerages. That's like I like that model. I like the compensation plan with the revenue share and the stock. And so it was on my radar because I knew it was very similar to EXP. And so, someone messaged me randomly and was like, I feel like you just need to have a conversation about it. And it was just such a random text. I was like, hey, this is on my heart to tell you. Go talk to this girl. And I was like, oh, all right, well, I'll talk to her. And that person had no financial gain in it. So I was like, why not? This is another tip for real estate agents. Like, if you close the door before you even explore an opportunity, don't do that. For me, I'm always about exploring opportunities because there's always something to learn from everybody.
Go sit down and have a coffee with somebody. Don't just because they're with whatever.
Yeah.
You could create a relationship even though you don't, They don't recruit you. You're not really interested this time. Maybe later you are, but maybe you create a relationship.
I have literally interviewed with every single brokerage in Flagler County over the years, and I have never regretted one time sitting down with someone because, like you said, you're building a relationship with the leader in that company, and you're also learning. So, like, there's things that you can learn about a company, and maybe it's not all the checks, right? All the boxes aren't checked, but now you're like, actually, they have that thing, and I need to add that to my list of must-haves for the next brokerage that I go to. But Real had all the boxes were checked, and when I dove into, like the compensation plan and the exact splits and the exact, cap on commission, all of that, it was a step forward, in my opinion. I wasn't going backwards from where we were at. And at the time, obviously, we have an office in Flagler, and I wasn't just worrying about me and Brady anymore. I had to worry about our agents that we have with us, and we have 16 now. So it was a big responsibility. And I really looked at what it meant for them. And, for me, it's just, if you don't have a cap on commission in 2023, like, you really need to be looking at places that have a cap on commission, because the more you make, the more you're going to pay. Our last year at our brokerage, that was a brick and mortar, old school, corporate style, 6% corporate fee. Our last year there, we paid our broker $56,000. In the last 4 years since we've left, we haven't even paid a broker $56,000. And we've made way more than we made that year at that brokerage. And so for us, it's a no-brainer. We thrive in that environment. Like, I'm good with getting our trainings virtually. I love the other piece of Real that is amazing. It's just the community of contributors. Everybody is a contributor. We make it really easy for agents to help agents. And so we have platforms where we do weekly Zooms. Different agents host weekly Zooms. There's, one on teams. There's one on marketing. There's one on branding. There's, like, name it. There's commercial. There's leverage. Like, name it. There's something going on. There's someone talking about it. And, they're pretty consistent times every week. And even if you just want to, like, hop in and see one particular person that you've been watching speak, you can just pop in once. You don't have, there's, like, no commitments to going to them. They're all online. I love that. I can also be driving in my car and throw it on, like, the car, and just listen and learn there too. And then afterwards, I get to also pick up my phone and call this person if I have a deeper question, or DM them. Usually it's connecting on social media, right? So it's like sending those DMs, and everyone wants to help. And I think that comes from the compensation plan, because we are benefiting from, obviously we at the compensation plan there, you have a great split. You have a cap on your commission. We have a revenue share. We have stock as well. And obviously, the better any company does that you own stock in, the better the stock does, right? So I'm financially incentivized to help other people. And even with our revenue share plan, I think because we are compensated from the agents that we invite to the company, I think it allows for us to be able to help them more, right? Like, it makes you feel good. There's no resentment building because you're like, this new agent keeps coming up to me in the office and asking me to help them, and they just go to the broker, right? Like, you actually are being compensated for helping new agents. And so I think it's like a very mutually beneficial relationship.
So if you're you're friends with Real in Michigan, and you want to be a real estate agent here, they basically, I guess you call it a sponsor. Is that what you?
Yes, yeah. So they call it a sponsor.
So if that person wants to come, now they're not directly sponsored by you in your office, but they are indirectly. Obviously, you're part of Real in that, umbrella of revenue sharing. Are you incentivized to help that person out here locally when their sponsor may be in Michigan?
Well, no. So I wouldn't like, if an agent who is not naming me as a sponsor or naming someone in my organization, I am not necessarily making $1 per their sale, right? But I find because of, because we have an office in Flagler, like, I host training events, and I don't feel bad about hosting these training events. And I've had agents come for years that never join us, and they still come. I don't feel bad about that. I now have this great relationship with this agent. I know that, like whatever, or even if they had joined with someone else, I'm happy to train them too. We open up our office for it. And that is, I find it's not direct financial compensation, but like I said, like the better the stock does, the better we all do. Right. And I'm making more than I would when I was at, let's say, Watson, when Watson's not giving me anything for any agent, whether or not I invited them in. And so, like, for me, it's just you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And it's a really positive experience. And also, I know I can reach out to agents who aren't benefiting financially from me, and they're going to help me. They're not going to give me probably 2 hours of their day, right? But they're going to help me with things. And it allows for you to align with people who are like-minded, who are doing business like you're doing, who are doing the things that you want to do. Like the reason we were very strategic with who we chose to partner with, and we have one partner in Florida, one in Texas, who's like systems queen. Shout out to Katie Day. And she is always helping me with systems and always, helping us grow our business.
So the team, you had six, now you have 16 agents. When you made the move, did all of them come over, or does it change you?
Yeah. So, not all of everyone came over. We had a couple, I think 2 got out of the industry, a couple stayed at the other brokerage, and then one went to a different brokerage. And that's okay too, right? Because everything's not for everybody. And I think that's also what it's taught me. Like I've worked at different brokerages. I've watched how I was treated when I left, and it wasn't kind and it wasn't gracious. And so I think just how, like, and the other thing is, like, my cap is, I don't know, am I allowed to talk about that stuff on this? Yeah. It's an 85-15 split with a $12,000 cap. If I'm not...
It's actually right on their website, actually.
Yeah.
If you go on Real's website.
I just didn't know if you wanted me talking about it.
I don't care.
But $12,000... like if that's all I'm paying someone for a brokerage. I can't open my own brokerage for $12,000 a year. That's why Brady and I chose the path to, someone the other day was like, you're going to have your brokerage soon. And I was like, no, we're not. Like, we are not. I don't want the liability. I don't want the responsibility. I can't go out of the country and turn my phone off if I'm the broker of record.
Right.
Like, that doesn't work, right? So for here, we have a broker who handles all of the broker things. She does what a broker does. She doesn't worry about marketing. She doesn't worry about transaction coordination. She doesn't worry about paperwork. She does the broker things, which is keep me out of jail, right? And so she's very good at her job, and our agents can go to her with those type of questions. For training, marketing, everything else, they come to us. And that's why Brady and I chose this path, because it really does give us ownership. We're allowed to build our brand. And my experience with Real is that their focus is making the agent's life easier. They're focused on making it easier for me to build my brand. They're focused on making it easier for me to function in a transaction. The technology that is behind the scenes, I also can't provide for anybody, right? Like the back end systems.
Have a full-time IT person, staff.
Staff, right? It's staff, and the systems that they have in place on the back end allow for us to get paid at the closing. Like, I walk away with a check that's for Megan Farrell that I can go put in my bank account from the closing table. I don't have to wait 3 days for it to be direct deposited, nothing. Right. And that is, I like that a lot. Well,
all right, so keep it simple for me.
Yep.
You said make an agent's life easier. What are some things that just stand out with Real in that respect? Yeah.
So everything is done on an app. So I like tablets, so I have it on my tablet, on my iPhone. Everything's done in the app. We can upload our contracts in there, approve our DAs, which is our disbursement agreement, which is what allows for us to get paid. So even one day, our first closing at Real, Brady didn't approve his DA, so they came out and they're like, oh, we only have one check. And I said, go approve it. And he literally went in, approved it. We were going to leave with one check, and by the time we took the picture, all that, bye-bye, buyer, seller, congrats, and we walked out to the door, they were running out behind us and tapping on the window, wait, we have your check. And so that was super cool experience, because it was within 15 minutes of us approving it. And they had the email to the title company, and back to us. So it's just the whole focus is the customers, like making the customer's experience better, which if you make a customer's experience better, my experience is better because, we're working together now and making it more seamless for them.
Obviously you were with the other big virtual broker and you go to Real. For someone who's not with a virtual, who may be with a Watson or a KW, you kind of cross over because you still have an office. You have a place.
We're like a hybrid.
Yeah, you're hybrid. Yeah, where people can come. How important is it? I mean, obviously, you must see this strategy in having that super technology from a company who's designed to be virtual.
Yep.
So obviously, they're pouring all their money into technology versus, brick and mortar.
Yep.
But yet you cross over on your own dime.
Yep.
To lease out a space.
Yep.
in creating a team and so how important is it to are you seeing some really great benefits? The fact that you're kind of touching in both worlds.
Yeah. So for me, I am an in-office girl. Like I can't work from home, or I'm doing the laundry and doing I'm doing something else, and then my favorite show's on at noon. So I need an office space. So for us, like we knew even when we went cloud-based originally, we knew we were always, and we did. We opened a branch office almost immediately when it was just Brady and I. And as we've grown, we've shifted office spaces to a bigger location, and we're actually right now even currently looking for a larger space. We've outgrown our space, and so for me, I see the benefit in that because it does allow for a space for people to meet clients and feel comfortable bringing customers back. It's I think when you open an office, when you have that brick and mortar, regardless to how forward thinking people are, it shows that you are successful, right? That you are established and you're not just like a fly by the night type of space.
Right.
So that's why it helps us build our credibility and our brand by having that space there. And we've always known that we wanted to do our own thing. Like I said, I've interviewed a lot of brokerages and I've seen a lot of great things that they're at. And this isn't like a real pitch. Like every broker is great for the agents that choose that broker. And I truly believe that in my soul that like there's a brokerage for everyone out there. But for us, we always knew after interviewing brokerages, like I was finding all the checks, but not every box. And so I created my own list and Brady and I did it together of what we wanted. And, that's what we were able to build through Real broker and the cloud-based brokerage, and because of the compensation plan, I'm still making more money even though I have my own office. I'm still at the end of the day walking away with more money in my pocket than I did at any brokerage where I had to pay them for forever until you die. Like that's just that was a hard thing. Now,
does Real allow you to put their brand on the off? Are you guys putting your own?
Yeah. So. That's a very good question, Tracy. So if you are in Florida, a Florida agent, you always need to have your broker on your marketing, always on there. So we are co-branded with Real Broker, and it is the Megan Farrell team that I co-brand. We are with Real. We are actually allowed to create what they call a marketing group. So our local office in Flagler is working on creating our name for what is going to be our marketing group. And it's not a team. We're not tied to each other financially, but we can all operate out of. So like how, I'll use Remax. Like the different franchises are like different Remax franchises have their own kind of name with it.
Right.
We're able to do something similar there at Real. Obviously, the state of Florida has rules about team advertising, so check your state, check your licensing rules. But we are in compliance with the state. We are able to market our own office as we see fit, and obviously with the Real Broker.
Now you're looking for a new office space, larger because your team's growing. And are you looking for more of a or just a business suite that's big enough, or you actually want to get out on the street and have possible walk-ins?
Oh,
what is your overall ideology on that?
Yeah, I mean,
attitude?
I think that walk-ins are not as common. I think you got obviously most of the people are looking online and that's what you should be building your brand is online through whatever platform, social media, Google. However, I think that if you we would like to be on a nice main road, so we have the opportunity to just have that continuous branding. It's more from a branding perspective. I kind of look at every piece of marketing I'm doing is this branding? Like, am I continuing my brand that is seen through everything? So our office space, ideally, we would want big signage just because I want to keep that brand out there. And Real Broker is a relatively new on the scene brokerage, right? Especially here in Florida and in my market. There's really just our office and a couple one-offs here and there. And so getting that brand out there, I have the Megan Farrell team, so we don't really get questioned. But, for the new agent, I want to help build that brand for them so they can use that and help them grow their business. And the other thing that I want to add is just the leadership at Real Broker is that was a big aha for me. And it was at their real conference. I hadn't switched over. I was going there because I wanted to experience what this culture. Everyone was like, "Oh, the culture is so great," and I was like, "All right, let's see it, right?"
Yeah.
And
I love that one.
Yeah, but you have to feel that, and that's the other importance of events is getting out there and being there. But Tamir, who's the CEO, he got up on stage and he threw up all the logos like Keller Williams, Century 21, Real, all of them up there. And he said, all these companies have one thing in common. But I'm sorry, Reals wasn't up there. All these other brokerages, all of them have one thing in common. And I've been to a lot of brokerage conferences and a lot of conferences. And I was like, here goes the shit talking, right? And I was ready for it. And he goes, every single company up there is good for the agents that see value in it. And where they can grow, if they can grow their business there, it's a valuable company to that agent. And the minute that we start remembering that we are not against each other, we are for the customer, is the minute that our businesses thrive. And it was just such an eye-opening moment because he's right. We get caught up in this. So
he didn't shit talk the other.
No. He was raising them up with us, right? Elevating everybody. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me because I had, you see the headline, because it's not sexy to put oh, look at this good human saying everyone's great, right? So the headlines do typically when someone's tearing someone down. And I've sat in the rooms and I've watched CEOs tear other companies down. And to me, leadership trickles down. That's a fact. And it's not a good look. I don't want to associate myself with someone who's saying negative things, kind of back to what we were talking about earlier. If you're talking negatively about another person, brand, I'm probably not going to want to engage in that conversation moving forward or relationship moving forward because it doesn't make me feel good. And so he also brought up a really great point. When we can stop fighting each other as agents, the people win, the customer wins. And why are we doing this? Right? What's the reason we get into it in the first place? Because any good agent knows that, yeah, money's great, but it ain't for the money. We can't be...
You caused me to go into this because it's a comment that you talk about, 130 some agents now. And every top person will agree, and I'm sure you will agree with this statement as well. The people are doing business with you because of you, not because you're with Real or you're with EXP or Watson or any of the other Keller Williams or whatever. They don't even register that anymore. I don't think, and on any sort of level. Actually, most of them probably, if I pick up a 800 call that I get here at Loan Depot and say, hey, are you working with an agent? Most of them say, yeah, her name is Megan. Do you know what broker she works with? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I say that's the kind of answer you're going to get. And to come to the realization that these brands no longer are carrying the weight. It's what value they're actually giving the agents, like you said, or in this, they're this attitude was, yeah, Real. We want to do, EXP doesn't offer that, but we do. They won't offer it, they can, but we offer it, and that's the positive thing.
Yeah.
Because they don't offer it, well, that's their choice. They don't want to offer it, or whatever. Not to sit there and say, oh, they're terrible. They do this, they do that, do this. Because I think that changes with the seasons.
Yeah.
You change leadership. in each individual brokerage. You might have a brokerage, a Remax brokerage in Michigan that kills it, and they do all the great things. Now, every agent in there is super, and they all do all the things. But then you come down to Miami and go to this Remax office, and they have the worst leadership in there, and everybody's just really bad. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, stick. But obviously, they come to the realization that, it is all about the agent. And putting the agent and creating their own branding. We're just behind the scenes to give you that administrative support and education.
That is spot on to what my experience has been at Real, is like they are encouraging me to build my own brand, and like not even just encouraging you to, like, providing trainings and providing a platform where people can get up and train. And like, I have the opportunity to show what we've built here, and they're not like, oh, but not like that, like, whereas I've been at when I built my team, I was at a local brokerage and I got my logo and I was all excited about it. And they were like, yeah, but maybe can you make it like our logo colors? I was like, well, why would I do that? It's not my logo then, and so, and that's just my opinion of that. Is just like a misunderstanding of what allowing an agent to thrive really is. And viewing agents as, like, we're all in it together. I feel like our leadership is our team with us, like they listen to us, and they don't even just like, they're not just asking like top producers, right? They're going in and they're like, hey, single agent who does 30 deals a year, and wants to get to 50. What problems are you seeing? Not just what we're reading about online, right? Like the sky is falling, Chicken Little syndrome that comes up online. They're diving in the trenches with us. They're talking to team leaders. They're talking to single agents. They're talking to people all over the board. And I've watched them make change. And before we moved, it takes us a long time to make a decision on moving because, like I said, it's a big responsibility.
Well, that's deep as you are into your career as an agent to make a move like that.
Yeah, it took us like 5 or 6 months before we made a decision, and even the transition we made before that, it took us 7 months. And so we're really diving into all this stuff and sitting back and watching and listening and hearing just how people talk and where do we want to be aligned. And for me, it was an absolute, like, when I heard that man Tamir on stage, when he was like, they're all great companies for the agents that work there, I was like, I'm home, because I'm tired of the negativity. It doesn't build you up to tear others down. So if we can find a way to, coexist, and that is magic. And that's the beauty of this industry, because there are so many brokerages. In the last 2 weeks, 3 of my friends have opened their own brokerage. And what did I do every single time? Picked up my phone, ranted and raved in their comment section, right? Loved their stuff. And I picked up my phone and called them, and I told them sincerely from the bottom of my heart how excited I was for them, how proud I am of them, how much I know how hard that is. I know how scary it is to put yourself out there like that. And I cheered them on because I care about all of them and I want them to succeed. They're not with us. I don't make a penny off of them. They're actually direct competition to what Brady and I are trying to build. But I can step back and acknowledge that, like, everybody doesn't need to be with me, right? My people need to be with me. And if I can shine my light and show what not only Real Broker offers for them, which is a whole lot of tech, a whole lot of community, a whole lot of training, but also what Brady and I offer to them and who we are as people, that's where I win. And that's where the people we have, like, our office right now, I could tear up about how fantastic our crew is, and just the support, the communal support, and like you were saying earlier, we have, with how our structure is, obviously Brady and I shifted first, right? So Brady and I are financially benefiting from, I would say, the most, right, from anybody in our office. We're also on the hook financially for the most too. But we have agents in our office who don't financially benefit from each other, who are on calls with each other and doing open houses. Like, my proudest moment was one week I called one of our agents, and I was not feeling well. So I said, hey, I need a little support this week. Can you be a leader for me? Like, just if you hear anything in the office and people need help, be there. And like 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, like, no one's asking me for open houses. And I see these ads going up on Facebook, like, open house this weekend. All of our agents doing open houses at each other's open houses, no one had, and I say
they
bother.
didn't feel to use you as a conduit anymore. They could just go to each other.
No, they didn't call me. They didn't and it doesn't bother me. But of course, I'm always here for calls and to help. But like, no one reached out to me. No one asked me how to run the ad. No one asked me how to do the marketing. No one asked me for my listing. And it was honestly the most beautiful moment that I've had as a leader. And
when the birds start to fly.
It makes my heart. It really like it's literally like the birdies are out of the nest. And like this week we have one agent who's having her first closing, Shelly. And I've watched her work so hard, and she's in her first year. She joined us last summer, and she's in her first year, and she's finally there, and she's got her second closing the week after. And so it's like really starting to work for her. We've got Zach, who last April he started, so 1 year ago, so this is the power of video, he started doing market updates. And once a month market update, literally
for a certain community or Palm Coast?
Palm Coast altogether. And he would be like, Palm Coast market update, here's what it, like, he would look at paper. It wasn't like this professionally shot. He shot it on his iPhone. And he started doing that consistently for about 4 or 5 months. I remember he came into my office. He's like, Megan, someone just called me off of Facebook. I didn't even have to sell myself because they knew me. And I was like, yes, because you're authentic.
They think they know you.
Right. But like, that's like his brand, right? He's authentic. He's putting himself out. And now he does probably 3 to 4 videos a month. And he has 10 pending contracts.
That's awesome.
10. In 1 year, he went from just getting started with video to 10 pending contracts. So I also share that because I want to just let agents know, like, you can get there fast. You can get there, a year. Yeah, it's a long time, sure. But
start the journey.
Yeah, start that journey.
Start the journey.
Yeah, and we're super happy with Real Broker,
Well, to compliment you on some of the things you just said in the last 5 minutes really is, the really true tale of a leader is to create other leaders, and you created other leaders in the office. And when you did hand off and said, "Hey, I need you to take the baton this week because I'm sick," and they took it, and now they're off flying on their own.
They are.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And then they inspire each other, and it really, it's magic. It's such magic. Thank you for the compliment. I will also credit Brady because he is also just a fantastic leader, and we're both former educators. And I think that's kind of the magic of the balance of leadership is like, because I used to be a micromanager. I did not know how to actually lead. I thought I had to like lead and then do for. And so
it's a tough break.
Leadership is very hard. So
well, the part of it that you're talking about Real, and they're allowing people who are not people that are on top of the list or whatever to share some of their little ideas of how they do something, may trigger someone over in Texas go, I like the way that realtor does it. They've gotten, even if they haven't gotten any deals, they just like it, so they 10x it. And they're really good at it. They have to do it better.
Yeah,
and it goes on to share those ideas. And I think a lot of corporations don't dig deep into they don't call their soldiers and say, what are your problems?
Yeah.
They don't do that. They call the guy 3 levels up.
Yep.
And you say, hey, what are you guys' problem? Of course, he wants to say there's no problems because he's running his area the best.
Or his problems are recruiting problems, and that's not the average agent. The average agent isn't here to recruit, you know?
We could talk about, that's a whole other side subject over there, but actually what's going to put the boots on the ground and do it. And that's kind of refreshing to hear that in the sharing of ideas of however small they may be to one person that may be a huge game changer to someone else.
And I think the other really cool thing that Real does is they study not study per se, but like they see what their competition does. And so they like take what their competition does and then they like see how they can make it better. And obviously better is a personal word. And so like they're just working on elevating the entire experience for the agent, for the consumer. And like I said, when the customers are winning, the agents are winning, you know? So
100%. I want to wrap things up. Did we miss anything? I think we covered.
We covered more than expected.
Yeah, we went deep into some things there.
We did. I'll just say if people do have questions about Real Broker, I'm more than happy to, you're going to tag me and everything. Yep. So more than happy to have conversations about that. We have seen the most success with it. Our business, we've closed, Yes, we've closed
Is
this
there a way on the keyboard to make the L backwards like they do?
I can send it to you. I got it. I got it.
Is there some sort of keyboard?
See the top
trick?
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it for you. I got it.
And then where can the Amazon for the book?
So you can reach out to me personally. I can personally send you one. I'd love to write a little note in it for you. So
100%. I would definitely. I would love to give some out here. Can we get some in a bulk thing?
Yeah. I do have a couple with me. So we can give them away. And also for women's, I have a website, empoweredrealestate.com. And that is her. Yeah.
HER, just add her to the end.
So, it's empowered with an H in there. So,
okay. So it's EMPOW
HERED realestate.com. Okay. Tricky, I know. It's a hard one. It's a hard one, but it's got her in there. So just if you got her, you got it. And I actually spelled it wrong and forwarded the wrong spelling ones to my website.
When's the next event?
We're gonna we're gonna get one together in the fall. Super excited about that. Also hoping to have a large launch event, which is the Real Broker, our kind of our group of people doing a launch event in Jacksonville in the fall as well. So we've got a bunch of event opportunities coming up. Definitely a virtual summit over the summer we'll be hosting. So best way to connect with me is social media, and also for recovery, fellow survivors, I'm here for you guys too. If anyone has any wants to talk about any of that stuff too, happy to engage in all of that conversation and support around that. Love always, and I'm just here to help. So anybody needs anything, happy
100%.
to help.
100%.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.